Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Out of Character, a show where your favorite creators drop out of character for an hour to talk with game designer and host Marc Tassin, that's me, about their art, their process, and all the nerdy stuff that inspires them. From the secrets behind their craft to the ins and outs of the business to the games and shows and books that they can't get enough of, it's a unique and candid look at the people who create the stuff that you and I love. Now, comments are going to be open throughout the show, and although I can't make promises, we'll probably pull in some of your comments and questions as we go along. So that's more than enough of my yammering. Let me introduce our guest for this week, Crystal Sully. Crystal, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mark.
Not a problem. I'm thrilled to have you on the show today. Thank you very much. Hey, as before we get started, for folks who maybe don't know your name, they've probably seen your art. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a creature designer and illustrator. I mostly do stuff for Wizards of the Coast these days. You've probably seen a lot of my work in D&D Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and recently released the Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep book. I had the distinct honor of bringing to life a majority of the grotesque deep sea monsters for that book, which was super fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's part of why I was excited to talk to you, because I've seen your work and it's just really powerful. Like, I'm just going to bring up a picture right now. I mean, your creatures are believable. Like, I can believe that they're real, and yet they are completely fantastic, right? They don't have that sort of like just a lizard with horns on it or something. It's like, these are creatures that are unlike anything I've seen before. And yet when I look at them, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I could run across that thing. As you're working on pieces like this, are you thinking a lot about what actual creatures are like? Are you looking at references? I mean, how do you go about putting one of these monsters together?
Oh my gosh, I'm a huge animal fan, I guess. Just
Mhm.
anything that is actually real in our world is my biggest inspiration, including sometimes my own pets.
Mhm.
Fizban's Treasury of Dragon, there's a blue wormling illustration, I believe. You may have that one on hand. And at the time when this assignment came in, I had a little puppy who was just 8 weeks old. And he was playing with his leash on the floor with his little butt wiggling up in the air. And I thought, oh my God, that's it. That's the blue wormling. I snapped a couple of photos, put them up on my reference board, and drew that from reference. And yeah, I even got the mischievous little smirk that, puppies have. So this is my puppy immortalized in
That's awesome.
D&D forever. And that was a lot of fun.
I think that's interesting too, because I know there have been some recent things where people have been like, oh, here's the cute animal version of different monsters like owl bears. But I do think it's interesting when you think about sort of the life cycle of these monsters that we run into. Like, most creatures are cute when they're young. Apparently that keeps them alive. And it would be no difference with the creatures that we're used to, like this one. Like, you really want to cuddle with him, but I'm afraid I'd get like really horribly mauled along the way.
Right? I wanted to find that balance too between like absolutely pinching cheek adorable, but still might like, maybe take a couple fingers off if you tried.
Right? Like when you see someone playing with like a baby tiger and you're like going, oh my God, it's so cute. And you're like, it's so going to hurt that person. It's kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sort of curious. Everyone has that one piece where it's like, yeah, that's the moment that I went from, posting my stuff online, being a huge fan, trying to get people's attention to, oh my God, I'm actually doing this and making money at it. What's that piece for you? What was the piece that did that for you?
Oh my gosh. I think honestly, there's been a couple of them. One of which was a book cover that I did for Orbit Books with this fantastic art director named Lauren Penapinto, who kind of took a chance on me, my first cover, and I call it the Midnight Dragon. It was for a
Mhm.
book series called The Dragon Lord's False Idols, and it's the main picture on my website, my Twitter, like all my social media links have this guy because it's just this dragon just creeping out of the darkness face to face with an adventuring party, and they're just holding up their swords just like, oh my God, what are we going to do now?
Oh, that's awesome. And so how did
Yeah.
you end up finding out about that? How did you get an opportunity to do that piece?
Yeah, so this one was really special to me because I had met with this art director a few times at a show out in Kansas City called Spectrum Fantastic Art Live. And now it's kind of joined with Planet Comic Con out there. And I think in 2013, young Crystal with a portfolio tucked under her arm, the first time I went, met with this art director who's like the coolest person ever. She's green hair, covered in tattoos, just an awesome human being. And I was so intimidated, but I asked if she could give me a portfolio review, and she sat down with me and gave me a bunch of pointers to, improve my craft and, apply this thing to this type of thing I wanted to do. So I came back year after year doing portfolio review after review, and finally, I just got a random email in my inbox that said, "Hey, you're ready. I have a cover for you." And it was really validating to see that, all this hard work and everything had paid off. And yes, you got it. That's cool.
Yep.
You got the cover.
Yeah, there it is. An amazing picture, right? And it's that sort of horrifying moment that
Yeah.
those five are sitting there going like, we're in really big trouble. We have made a horrible mistake somewhere along the line here. That's fantastic.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
it's interesting you're talking about portfolio reviews, and I'm sure that there's a lot of artists out there who don't know where to even start. And I know about portfolio reviews because I've got some friends that have done them in the past. But I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what's that process like? Like what does it mean to have somebody do a portfolio review for you?
Oh gosh. So, and I know it's a little tougher with, the way the cons are now, although they are coming back, which we're all
Mhm.
very excited for. But
Yeah.
I always recommend going in person. Online portfolio reviews are a great option if that's your only option.
Mhm.
But in person are just an incredible chance to meet this art director, have them meet you, kind of see what your energy is all about, who you are as a person, how excited you are about your craft, and really just sitting down with, I usually suggest, to students asking me about reviews, anywhere from 6 to 10 of your best paintings. And if there's a painting in there that you're a little iffy about, just take it out. Don't even put it in there.
Mhm.
Put your best work that you can think of and take that to a professional, that whether it's a game studio you want to work for, like Dungeons and Dragons. I actually reviewed with them in, I want to say 2014, the following year. I had a little leather bound portfolio book with all my stuff printed out back before, iPads were really
Right.
a big thing. And I slapped that down on the table in front of Kate Irwin and Richard Witters, who are, the folks I've been working for now for 2 years. And just getting one-on-one feedback on like, okay, this is great. We think you could do dragon art for us, but we want to see consistency, is what they said to me. We want to see that you can do these realistic dragons that I had one of. Now, my whole website is all
Yeah.
realistic dragons, but I had done one creature. It was called the Tomb Keeper. It's this undead dragon that I painted in 2014, and they absolutely loved it. But they said, we need to see that you can keep doing this. You can do one
Yeah.
after another professionally. So I took that to heart and went to town and did a whole portfolio of realistic dragons. And that obviously paid
The
out
rest
really
is
well for
history.
me. Yeah. So new artists out there, any artists out there trying to get work, I always recommend any portfolio review opportunity you get, jump on it
Mhm.
if you can.
Now, you were talking about iPads. Is a modern portfolio review usually done on a tablet, or do you still expect to show up with prints of your work?
Yeah, so modern day, I just bring an iPad with me now that now that they exist, and their
Yeah.
screens are gorgeous and beautiful. And I actually do most of my art on an iPad these days. I use an app
Mhm.
called Procreate. It's just a $10 iOS app, and I do 99% of all my painting on an iPad, which is great. I can be on the plane working, in a car, and then what do you know, run into an art director on an airplane, which has happened before, believe it or not. Has
Oh,
happened.
wow.
Ran into an art director on the way back from a show right next to my seat, and he got to watch me working on a whole new thing the whole way back, and we ended up working together. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah.
And, when you're using your tablet, I'm sort of this is me just being curious because I've got a tablet with a stylus here that I use for things. I
Yeah.
mean, do you use a stylus? I assume some sort of iPad stylus that you're using?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is good too. If anyone out there is really wanting to get into digital art, my biggest recommendation that I use an iPad Pro 12.9-inch screen, and you can get what's called the Apple Pencil with that, which has,
Okay.
I don't know, like a bazillion levels of pressure sensitivity. And it's the most intuitive drawing experience I've ever had digitally. Because I started out as a traditional artist. I think, most of us did my age. It's, before digital art was really a thing. And
Mhm.
going from doing pencil sketches to drawing on a screen, I didn't know if I would really like it, but the iPad makes it feel really natural, and I love that thing so much. I've gone through every generation since the first one just to
Uh-huh.
take it with me everywhere.
Yeah, when I actually got my first tablet, I just walked around playing a movie on it that I wasn't watching just because I could. And I was like, look, I made it to Star Trek. I've got a pad. I can carry this around and watch movies and surf the internet. This is the coolest thing ever. Well, yeah, I have to say that, I think a lot of people are probably really terrified of the thought of trying to go up to an art director and, do a portfolio review. And I think that that's something that's really hard to do the first time. But at least my experience with working with folks in the industry, they're very inviting. They want to meet you. They want to help you. And unless they say, I'm really busy, please come back later, then please do that. Don't just sit there and say, well, they'll only take a second, because that won't work. But yeah, I think it's always really great. And you get some really good feedback as well. Like when you were talking about consistency, one of the things that's come up in all of the conversations I've had is just talking about that in addition to this being an art, it's a business, right? And there's just a level of reliability and consistency that's necessary for an artist to work from a business perspective. And I don't know how much of your experience with that has been, but it sounds like that's part of why you've been successful, is that you were able to prove that to folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely am just thinking of how afraid I was to walk up to these art directors, and they had these little paper sign-up sheets at the time, which some conventions do, which is really nice when you have like a time slot and you don't have to make that social jump where, okay, they're at their booth and you have to walk up and ask for a portfolio review. That's the most scary thing in the world. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think having a business mindset is a really big part of running an art business too. And I think a lot of artists specifically kind of overlook that, and they go, I'll just make cool art and just, post it occasionally on social media and boom, like I'll get a career. And some people that works out really well, but I've had to work really hard on like the business side of things and marketing, meeting people like these art directors. I don't know if I would have had the opportunities that I've had without putting myself out there, which is very scary. All of us pretend to be very confident. I promise you, we're not. We're all just terrified.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, so now a lot of artists and creators who we talk to on the show, very often they've got other jobs. Is this your only job now? Are you doing this full time, or do you have other work you do as well?
Yeah, so this has been my full-time job since 2012.
Awesome.
Straight out of college, I got picked up for an internship actually working on Elder Scrolls Legends, which is, a hell of a job right out of school.
Yeah, right.
No pressure or anything. And learned a ton about the industry, about, working quickly, doing digital art, stuff like that. And since then, it has just taken off, just one client job after another. And I usually do have rotating clients, a couple at once, so that keep the lights on and everything like that. But yeah, it's my full-time job. And two, one thing as well that like I want to make sure people know is like there is nothing wrong with having a day job too. Like a lot of my friends are like, oh well, I gotta go like get this day job. I feel really embarrassed, like I'm not a real artist or something like that. And I think it's all nonsense. I think that is like a totally valid thing. And you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Well, and especially, I mean, let's be honest, most of us that people I'm talking to live in the US, and you need healthcare. And a lot of times that's tough to pull off if you're just working independently, doing freelance. You are looking for new work every week. You have to sort of keep hustling all the time to keep your income stream going. And, the reality is that it's just not possible for most folks. And I think that people are surprised sometimes when they start talking to people who they think do nothing but this. And they're like going, no, I am a New York Times bestselling author who also has a job, right? That's just how it works.
Oh, absolutely. And I know too, like the tabletop industry is kind of not the best well known when it comes to, artist rates and writer rates and stuff like that. So a lot of people do have to make ends meet and have other jobs. And I'm lucky enough that my husband has his full-time job. So he works in IT, so he has health insurance, thank God, or else I would definitely have a day job for sure, trying to just for health insurance alone.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. And I make games, I'm a writer, but I've got a full-time job in IT because you got to pay the bills, and my kids are going to go to college and all of that good stuff too. And I have to buy more games, and so what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I did want to share one thing with you. I brought up a special guest.
I was gonna say, is that a Darth Maul Phantom Menace?
Yes, I brought Darth Maul up to join us today. Now, unfortunately, his lightsaber was not in his hands when I found him. So you'll just have to imagine that it's there.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, I just went downstairs to grab it. I was telling Crystal earlier that I have an entire basement filled with games and Star Wars toys. Pretty much my whole basement is full. So
That's awesome.
if you wanted something like a Darth Maul standee, I probably have it hidden down there.
Oh my gosh.
So you have done work on Star Wars. You've done Star Wars pieces as well, right? I mean, this is something that as a huge Star Wars fan, I want to talk about, and I'm going to,
Yes.
you know,
Now we get to really like dive in. I'm a huge D&D fan. I work for D&D, I love it.
oh
But
yeah.
Star Wars is my life blood. Star Wars is my beating heart and my soul. It's like what got me into art was Star Wars, and mainly Darth Maul. And
Mhm.
this is one of the pieces, the most popular one for sure, that I created for Star Wars Legion. And I realized there's a second project I worked on as well, but I don't know where my art is for it. It's called Star Wars Unlocked, and it's like
Mhm.
a board game that's like a mystery type escape room thing that you use your
Huh.
phone and all sorts of cool stuff. But I kind of forgot till today. There are two Star Wars projects I've worked on.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it is that Star Wars is, I think, it has to be tough to work on because you're not selling this to an audience that doesn't know what they're looking at, right? When they've memorized these characters, they're what they wear, how they hold themselves, how they
Oh,
walk,
for
right? I mean,
sure. It's
I, oh,
very
go ahead. Yeah,
intimidating. Very
yeah,
intimidating. And my art director told me when, when he told me he had this piece for me, a Darth Maul for me. He
yeah.
well, first of all, he said he trusted me because I have Darth Maul tattooed on my arm for, forever. So I've got a pretty
Uh-huh.
good reference. And I just am all about this character, Dathomir stuff in general is my whole jam. But even being like this Darth Maul Dathomir expert and huge fangirl, I was intimidated. I was very intimidated. I was like thinking this entire coat has to be perfect, the shape of his gloves, the exact leather trim on that wrist cuff, because if anything is off, Star Wars fans will know. I have been that fan where I'm like,
Right,
nope, they
exactly.
got his hood wrong. That's not right. Like
I
I
mean,
didn't
it's a
want to be
nice
that
picture and
artist.
all, but you know, it's supposed to
Yeah.
go over to the left, and I saw the actual costume once, and you
Yeah.
know,
Exactly. We go to Star Wars Celebration every few years, and there's always these incredible cosplayers, and I just am like, I'm so thrilled when like people get it spot on, and a lot of them do. Cosplayers are incredible, and I just see all these Darth Mauls out there, and I'm like, yeah, you did great. Those tattoos are like perfect, good, perfect design on those.
uh-huh. Yeah, I actually, I think it's really fantastic to be able to contribute to something like that because the thing is that things like Star Wars have given so much to so many of us that to have it be able to sort of offer something back to that same audience, that same
Yeah.
crowd, it's a cool feeling to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really is, and I think I almost passed out when I when I got the email in from him, and there's someone who'd been a friend for a really long time, and I had recently put out a tweet into the universe saying like, "Hey, universe, I would love to do some Star Wars stuff," and actually both Star Wars projects I started working on around the same time, and both people saw my tweet and were like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you were interested in Star Wars stuff." One art director said, "Yeah, I'm working on a thing and I have a few paintings if you have the time." Then the other friend said, "Oh, I have the thing that will just blow your mind. I have Darth Maul if you're interested." And I was like, "I don't care what it is, if it's a book, a game, if it's whatever, a sticker. I will drop everything. I will Moses parting the Red Sea, my schedule to put Darth Maul in there." And I did. And it was really fun.
God, I hope you get some more Star Wars stuff because your art is just gorgeous, right? I mean, and you know, it's clear like just this one image. I look at this and I know you get it, right? I know that you love this character that you sort of captured. I mean, even sort of the look on the face, right? There's this look that Darth Maul has that is not like any other character. That is just like you feel like you're about to die. He's going to kill you, is basically what I
Death
feel like,
incarnate
right?
on your doorstep.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and you capture it. So anyone working on Star Wars projects, you talk to Crystal. I want her to do more Star Wars stuff. This is awesome.
Yes, that is my goal this year, 100% actually, is that they have a lot of High Republic books coming out. There's all new games. I mean, we are
Right?
in the renaissance of Star Wars right now, and I know a lot of games and movies and books need artists. So that is my goal. I'm working on a new Star Wars portfolio right now that I'm really excited to share when my new art is done. And I am going after Lucasfilm again this year because that's
awesome.
my dream. That's a dream right there.
That'd be fantastic. So how did you get into Star Wars? What was your introduction to it?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm sure at some point they will watch it because my parents are very supportive and they love all the stuff I do. But my mom and dad, more so my mom, actually. I mean, we grew up on the originals. I know my age is going to show here a little bit because I was real little. I was definitely not around to see them in theaters. I wish, but the original Star Wars movies, that was what was on in the background when I was a kid, when I was playing, when I was learning and growing, and most of all, just drawing. And I kept watching it. And then as soon as Phantom Menace came out, I was at that exact age where I just started to really realize art was my thing. And I kid you not, I saw it in theaters with my family, and Darth Maul, he takes off his hood and, John Williams music plays,
Right.
the door opens and he holds his arm out and both sides of the lightsaber ignite. And my little heart just went, oh my God, I got to draw that. I have to draw anything like that. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And like that moment right there, I think I ran home and, picked up some kind of stick in the yard that was like a double-bladed lightsaber. A lot of girls are like Princess Leia for sure. And I love Princess Leia. Carrie Fisher, rest her soul.
Oh, yeah.
She's amazing. But no. I was Darth Maul. I was Darth Maul hopping and bouncing around the rocks, looking ridiculous, I'm sure. And just knew like, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to be a part of this. My imagination just, I don't know. It was the key that unlocked everything for me that day was seeing Phantom Menace. But, the originals too had a huge part of that. Growing up, I was very primed for, Star Wars being amazing. R2-D2 was, my favorite thing in the world growing up on that.
And did your parents introduce you to Star Wars at all, or did you sort of come by it on your own, the earlier stuff?
Oh yeah, they were the ones just putting it on all the time. My mom specifically really, really loved Star Wars, and it was honestly her growing up. She had me when she was pretty young, and so her growing up she was also all about Star Wars. And what was really cool is when The Force Awakens came out, and you remember the tagline was Mark Hamill saying, "The Force is strong in my family." My parents were sort of quoting that back and forth all weekend when I treated them and said, "Hey guys, there's a new Star Wars movie." And they were like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm taking you to go see it. A new Star Wars film with your daughter in person who just got to work on a Star Wars thing." It was that year. So we went and I took them to see it. And as soon as that moment, that voice line, the Force is strong in my family, we all kind of looked at each other, and it was a real cute moment. We're a bunch of Star Wars nerds in my family.
Yeah, my aunt took me to see it when it came out in the theater, and I'm going to show my age. This is how I got into Star Wars.
Oh, that's
so there
cool.
I am. That was my first Star Wars toy. I have received Star Wars toys at every birthday and Christmas since then.
Yep.
To the chagrin of people, my parents and now my wife. But awesome. I just saw it in the theaters and I was done. That was it for me. Star Wars was my thing, and I've been loving it ever since. It's great. And the thought of getting to work on it just seems like just fabulous, right? Just a very cool thing. And it seems like your experience working on it too it seems like it was pretty positive overall too. Because I know that sometimes when you work on something, you're like, working on it's a lot different than just enjoying it. But it seems like you still got to just bring your love to the work as well.
I think so. And me and the art director who, like I said, he was a friend of mine before at the time. We'd got coffee when he told me he had this whole project assignment. He lived in the area, and we had this discussion about how much, like Darth Maul specifically, just the visuals of this character, to realize like that's a job. Someone designed that. And I got to meet that someone, by the way. His name is Ian McCaig, and he's an incredible artist. If any artists out there want to look him up, Ian McCaig is just the kindest human being who makes incredible work. But we were talking about that, how having a huge passion for something, I think it shows in the work. And that's why at the time my portfolio was all dragons and monsters. I didn't have any character art in my portfolio. So he admitted like, yeah, we're kind of taking a little chance on you here, but he's like, I know your whole world, started out with Darth Maul, basically your obsession with Star Wars. So he's like, I trust that you're going to do this character justice. And that was like, that chance that was given to me was just the start of all of it. And it was great. I had a lot of time to make the paintings. Sometimes, you know, like with other clients, you get a really tight deadline and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to I have to just go as fast as I can and rush through this. But I had plenty of time. They were like really good for my rates and paid for my time. And it just was it was a really great experience. And I know it was just a couple paintings for, you know, this amazing box set, which I have here. And you know, I didn't get to contribute to like a film or something like that, but to be a part of it in any small way, and especially with my favorite character, that was like bucket list item right there.
So like everything else from here is gravy, right? I mean, it's great, but you know, at this point, other than maybe getting a Lucasfilm gig, at this point, you know, you've hit the top of your bucket list, and all the rest is just like, if I get to it, great.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, the thing is, though, is that you are a person who now has a bucket list. You got a lot of boxes checked. I mean, you've got Dungeons and Dragons, you've got Critical Role, you've got Dragonlance, which we can't really talk about much.
Oh my gosh!
I know it's been announced, but right?
So excited about that.
That's just crazy, being able to work on the Dragonlance stuff. And the fact that, here's the thing I keep thinking about: you knew about this a long time ago. The rest of us are all just like, whoa, this is happening. This whole time you've been sitting going, yeah, I knew this the whole time, right?
Yeah, that's like the hardest part of this whole job is, I mean, getting an email like that says, hey, are you available to work on Dragonlance? And I'm like spitting out my coffee. Like I can't tell a soul, like signed NDAs and cannot tell anyone. And then as soon as it gets announced, me and all the other artists and the writers, all the creatives who had a hand in it, we all just lose it, just go wild, because it's just so exciting. And I think I'll have that same moment when I finally also get to share my first Magic card, because that was like a huge dream job as well. And another one I can't say anything about for probably a long time, but when I can, it's going to be, I'm very, very excited to get to share that one.
Yep, another checkbox for you. That's amazing. I just think it's awesome. And I think one of the things you started to talk about earlier before we started the show, you were talking a little bit about getting that Magic card. Like you can't talk about the card or when it's coming or anything, but you talked a little bit about how you got the job. And I think that it's really interesting. I think it's something people could really learn from. Can you just sort of repeat your story of how you got your Magic the Gathering gig?
Yeah, of course. I think it's a really good one to share with anyone out there who is trying to, you know, succeed at any profession, any creative field. And it was me putting myself out there, which is the scariest thing ever, as we've kind of established. One of the art directors for Wizards of the Coast, specifically the Magic side, had made a Twitter post that was just public to everyone that said, hey, any newer, you know, artists out there who want to work on Magic, drop me your portfolio in the comments. And I mean, there were probably like 6,000 comments on this guy's post. And I sat on it for days and days. And another friend of mine, another art director, was like, hey, are you not going to put your stuff on there? Because this is like your dream job right here. I was working on D&D, but Magic is also like this, I don't know, this huge milestone for any fantasy illustrator. Yeah. They're so picky about the artists that they hire, and it's like the utmost honor. And after probably about a week of this post being up, I finally was like, okay, fine. She threatened if I didn't do it, she was going to put my stuff on there for me. And that's embarrassing. So I commented on his post, and you know, the piece I shared actually is one of the ones I sent you, the metallic great worm for Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And I just dropped this one piece. My website at the time had been taken down by hackers, so I had nothing else I could share with this art director. So I dropped this one painting, and I just was like, hey, this is like really nerve-wracking. I think I said that in my post. This is nerve-wracking, but I do stuff for D&D and would absolutely love to be considered for a Magic card someday. And I honestly think not 2 or 3 weeks went by before I got an email in my inbox that said, hey, I'm so-and-so with, you know, Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering, and we'd love to have you on board for a card.
Oh, so that's fantastic.
It was, I still was like, wait, that happened. That was real. That was a thing that happened. Oh my God.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of times folks are like, I put my stuff out there a bunch and nothing's ever happened. It's like, well, a lot of times it doesn't. But then it does, right? And it's only going to happen. It's not, you're not lucky that you got a Magic card. You got a Magic card because you have consistently done great work. You've delivered what you said you were going to deliver in a quality fashion on time. And when the opportunities came up, you put yourself in the right place so that you could get them. I mean, that's the sort of work that I've seen that goes into people becoming successful in this. And I think that that's a good lesson for anyone who's listening to learn from, as they hear about you doing this. You know, it's a very cool thing.
I think so too. Just with hopefully this helps anyone else out there who has an opportunity that they really want to go after. And I mean, like, I have been dreaming of doing a magic card someday since I was in school, and found out about the, you know, the fantasy art community, and just you'd hear people say, oh, that person's a magic artist. And it was like, oh wow, their work just it must be really great, because like they just did not bring on new artists at all. And I mean, you know, you have some of the masters I grew up looking up to are magic artists, and it just yeah, I almost didn't put myself out there. That's the wild part that makes me think sometimes, is I almost didn't do it. And I had a friend kind of pressure me into it. Thank goodness for this friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just almost didn't do it. And if I didn't, I don't know that I would have ever had that opportunity if I didn't put my work on that post and do that scary thing and just take that leap.
So, you know, you can do all of this completely alone and by yourself. But I think that one thing that's really valuable are support networks like that. You know,
Mhm.
your friends, your colleagues who you're sort of coming up with. You know, Matt Forbeck talked about some of the most valuable connections he's made are the folks who came up through the business at the same time as him, for example. You know,
Oh, yeah.
one of the folks commenting right now is a friend of mine who has been supporting me in every single crazy thing I've been doing lately. And that kind of support, you know, without that network of people, sometimes it's easy to let something slip away when you have something like the Magic the Gathering come up. Do you have like a big network or just a small, tight group, or what does it look like for you?
You know, I gotta say it's a pretty big network by now. The not just the fantasy art community, but just artists in general have been very supportive of me. I've been very supportive of them, and it's just
Hmm.
been a I don't know, just a community, like a community of people helping each other out. And I think honestly, most of any job I think I've gotten, any opportunity, has been from someone I met at a convention who, or went to college with, or even
Yeah.
high school with, who suddenly is like an art director at XYZ company, and they say, hey, I actually have need of, you know, this type of illustration, and you're my friend, and I would love to, you know, get you on this, like, a huge opportunity. And I mean, the work has to be there, of course, right? So we can't just know people. It's, you know, the hard
Yes.
work has
Right.
to be there. But I think just forging genuine relationships with people has been a really big part of my career. And I try to pay forward anytime I can. Like lately, I get a lot of client inquiries, and everything's been so booked up lately. I just I have to say no to a lot of people. And when I do, I try to keep other friends in mind and say, hey, well, I might not be able to do this job. Here are two other dragon artists that I'm very good friends with who I know can knock this out of the park, and just try to send the work their way. And people have done
Yeah.
that for me and gotten me incredible opportunities for sure.
You know, it's one thing I did want to mention though is that when I do something like this, I'm Marc Tassin, the guy who's on Twitch, who's talking, and I'm talking about the business and stuff, and it's who I am. In real life, I'm not really necessarily like this all the time. And I think that sometimes people look at shows like this and they see people talking, doing sort of putting their game face on, being in character, despite the fact it's called out of character.
Hmm.
And to a certain extent, they're like going, well, that's not me. I can't do that. I won't ever be able to make those friendships. But I think what they don't realize is that the friend, not the friendships necessarily, the connections you make with people are more realistic, right? They aren't
Yeah.
necessarily a show. They are just you going like, I'm super nervous. I don't know what I'm doing, but I would love to write for your thing. Be
Yeah.
so cool. Would you consider me? And they'd be like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And that sounds fine. And they don't mind, you know, they're human too. And I think that's an important part of it, is that you don't have to be like really slick to make those sorts of connections. You can just be you, and that's enough.
I think so too. And that's been honestly one of the surprising things about all the friendships I've fostered is I'm a very eccentric, excitable person. I mean, someone mentioned Star Wars, and I'm just like, can we talk about the history of Dathomir? Like, it's you know, my nerd cred goes pretty deep, but people people like you for being genuine is what I've
Yeah.
noticed. Is like I could being myself has been so much more rewarding than when I first started doing conventions. I tried to be like, I'm going to be button up professional and just try to be very, you know, I don't know, professional and just stiff and formal, and just
Hmm.
no, it was so wrong that, you know, people picked up on that, and I just let all that go. And Another thing too I wanted to mention about connections is I try to tell this to, anytime like a student or a young artist asks me about forging connections. And I always say, don't aim for the top. Don't aim for your favorite artists ever. Don't necessarily just try to like schmooze your favorite artists of all time. Like forge connections with the people who are in those trenches with you right now. Because what happened with me is all these people I graduated school with, all these people I did internships with, and we're working for certain companies with, like our very first jobs. We have all sort of gone our own ways, but those are the people who, are, AAA art directors who are like, yeah, if I ever get, some kind of dragon concept art, I got you on a AAA game kind of thing. And same here with me throwing work people's way. It's the people I've grown with have been my most valued sources, my most valued friendships, instead of just trying to, aim up and reach for like my dream artists there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one.
They're the ones that matter. It's like, no, everybody matters,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know. And I mean, from a very practical, logical sense, you don't know who's going to be the person that gets you that connection. But from a human sense, the reality is that what you need from people, what they need from you, it's very human, no matter where you're at, in your career, with your skill set. That's the thing too that I found, is that it doesn't have to be like, oh, I only hang out with the coolest artists that look the best. It's like, no, I hang out with people who love their work. Everyone brings something cool to the table. Every writer brings something different. Every game designer who puts out a book that, it's clear they did it in MS Word in their basement. And that's awesome, right? It's like, yeah, tell me all about it, man. That's cool. And I think that that's the thing, is that that's really what, when you talk about networking, that's really what it is. It's not, put on the show and be real cool when you meet the cool people type of thing.
Definitely. And it's one of those things where if you do meet your favorite artist at a show, or like an art director you really like, and they're super chill with you and they want to be friends, like that's awesome. You go for it. But I just have found so much value in just staying connected with people that I have kind of grown up with and grown into careers with. And also too, one thing I would love to point out is like when I went to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, graduated in 2012, my bachelor's, and I was probably one of the worst students they've ever had. Up until my senior year, I was a terrible student. And I'm sure the people who went to school with me were probably like, oh yeah, she's not going anywhere. I had a professor tell me I wasn't going anywhere, just to be totally frank. I just was, my art wasn't very great. I wasn't super motivated at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I had a teacher sit down with me and say, you like teeth and claws, just paint your teeth and claws. And I was like, I that's allowed. I can do that. I can just paint monsters. And some teachers said that won't sell, but one of them said, who cares? You like it, so do it. And now here I am, and all these like games actually, like they need monsters, and they need dragons, and it's just I didn't start out as the like person getting any kind of success or career stuff or cool jobs or anything. I was like the student looking up at those people with starry eyes, like, oh man, that's so cool. I wish. And just, through motivation and a ton of hard work and a hell of a lot of luck, I ended up here. And people may not have thought I would from college days, but those people who are now friends, like we're all just kind of doing our own things. And I'm glad they didn't give up on me, and they still remain friends. And, just it's good to have real connections.
I absolutely love that this professor told you that, because one of the things that I found is that everyone wants to believe that you can distill success down into a formula, into an algorithm. And that if you plug in all the pieces, you will be successful. You'll be famous. You'll be loved. Your stuff will be awesome. And I found that's not the case at all. There's really no telling what's going to hook people and grab people. And so I think that advice to do what you want to do was the best ever, because it shows exactly why that sort of approach is successful, because it comes through in what you're creating.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, after that professor told me that, I ended up meeting with another industry professional she's incredible. Her name's Carla Ortiz. She does a lot of stuff for Marvel and Lucasfilm and stuff. I did a portfolio review with her at a concept art convention in 2013. And I had some client stuff at the time that was just kind of like, it was interesting work, but it wasn't me. It wasn't monsters. It was like a knight on a horse. Like, cool. He has a flag. It's exciting. And she was flipping through that. And then I'd done this like grotesque sea monster horror in the back, like 2 days before the show. Sloppy print just slapped there in the back of this portfolio. And she flipped to that and she's like, oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Okay, what's this guy? I like this. This is cool. And she also told me that same bit of advice. She's like, you really love doing this. I want to see you do more of this. And I was like, well, that's not going to sell. And she's like, do it anyways. And sure enough, it sold. It sells every show we do. It's one of our top selling pieces, this grotesque sea monster. It's wild how that works out.
That's fantastic. Speaking of grotesque sea monsters, you have the Light Devourer, which this is from the Netherdeep, right? Called the Netherdeep, this one?
Yes, it sure is. This guy went a little viral on Twitter, which I was not expecting because, again, when it's some grotesque thing that's just, out of the horrors of my imagination and the amazing writers as well who wrote this creature in my art briefs, I'm thinking, okay, people are either going to hate this and curse me, or I'll get a couple of likes and, people are going to say, nice job, you tried. But, oh my gosh, people like their sea monsters. That's for sure.
I mean, the players in my game might still hate you and curse you for this because that's a lot of teeth, but it is an amazing image.
Thank you. And if you notice too, I actually put teeth on its lips. So as its lips pull back to reveal the teeth in the mouth, there's little tiny teeth on the lips itself. And
that's awesome.
This is so gross.
So many teeth.
Yeah, and you mentioned before too how basing things on real life and my monsters, my really scary ones, it's all about Blue Planet, basically. Deep sea horrors that actually exist, dragonfish, viperfish, anglerfish, the vampire squid, stuff like that are just those are like my go-to things when I really need to feel like spooked. I need to make a sea monster.
The stuff that comes up from down there is just like mind-breakingly terrifying. So I'm just glad so many of them are small. That's my only thing that makes me happy is knowing how many of them are not really big.
Me too. And what's funny about that? I used to think anglerfish were tiny. Like I saw a documentary and they said, oh, this one's like roughly the size of a football. But I believe there's one that's like 3 or 4 feet in diameter. There's like a really large anglerfish and it's terrifying. It's just no thanks. Like giant squid too, colossal squid. I just anytime one of those clickbait, news articles pops up like a colossal squid washes up on Swedish beach, I just like lose my mind. Like I gotta go see this. This is so cool. And get awesome. Monster inspiration of like, what if this is a baby? Like, always in my head.
So I do want to take 1 second. There's a few folks who have been saying hi, and I just want to pass along that Shadow Tempest remembers you from MySpace and says it's awesome to see how far you've come. So a quick hello from Shadow Tempest.
That's awesome.
Also looking here is Scythe0925, who I don't know who it is, but they say, hail to the queen. I'm from your CGC family. So
that's awesome. Cheyenne Gaming Con. We were just there last weekend and they put on an awesome show for us. We just first show back in like 2.5 years at this point. And man, were we shown some love. People were just so excited to see us there. And a lot of Critical Role fans who were just like showed up before we were done setting up, asking us, do you have Netherdeep prints? Are they here? Do you have art for Critical Role called the Netherdeep? That was awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. And speaking of cons, Gen Con is coming up, which we are on Gen Con TV, so it wouldn't hurt to talk about that. I'm going to Gen Con this year. It's going to be my first con in 2 years, 2.5 years. So I'm super excited about it. You're going to Gen Con this year, right?
I sure am. We are back in the art show. I believe it's I want to say like our 7th year, 6th year. I lose track of time at this point, but we will be there. I don't have my booth number yet, but as soon as I do, I'm going to blast it all over socials everywhere. I'm very excited to come back.
Cool. And now, have you had a booth at Gen Con in the past?
Yeah. So we've, I don't think I've ever attended. Actually, my first year there was as an exhibitor in the art show. And at the time I had just done a couple of pieces for Pathfinder and Starfinder. And that was about the extent of my professional credentials. So I'm very excited to go back this year with, just probably a whole booth full of D&D art and, unannounced magic stuff I can't share. But just as an artist on these properties, it's going to be maybe a little bit of a different experience for sure. I'm excited.
Yeah, right. Because you're gonna have pieces that people are gonna go like, that one. I know that one. Oh my God, I've seen that.
Yeah, exactly. Like even just at Cheyenne Gaming Con, a lot of people were coming up and they're like, "That's in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. That's the Great Worm," and just was like, "Yeah, that's me." And they were like, "Wait, oh, you that's you? You painted that?" Like it was really fun seeing everyone's face when they had that moment of realization.
Now, when you're at the con, do you just sit at the booth and talk to people? Do you actually do art while you're at the booth? I mean, what do you usually do what's working a con look like for you?
Oh gosh. When I first started doing shows, I thought, well, I'll just sit at the booth and like take commissions. I see a lot of people doing that. But we have the great fortune of being absolutely bombarded at every show we do with nonstop customers and people wanting to chat and ask about the work and buy the work. That my husband and I both pretty much full time every single day, every hour of every day. We're standing there, we're chatting with customers, we're answering questions, we're honestly telling the story of every single piece, because even if it's a D&D painting, everything has a story. Even
Hmm.
if it's just a funny story about like the blue wormling that we based off of our 8-week-old puppy Fletcher at the time.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, that's why I was so excited. I still have my voice after Cheyenne Gaming Con, because we just were nonstop chatting with people and basically just, you're just social pretty much every day of the show, start to finish, and rarely get lunch breaks because it's just incredibly busy, and it's a great problem to have. It's
Right,
amazing. I'm so
exactly.
glad we're that busy. It's awesome.
So now, do you enjoy hanging out with people socially, or are you more of do you need like serious downtime to like recharge after that in order to get back to a normal state?
Oh gosh. I think I'm squarely in the middle. I've always tried to figure out
Okay.
this introvert versus extrovert thing, and I can be total extrovert at the show, but I need my downtime afterward to just zen and just hang out at my house and walk around in my pajamas and just be like cozy and no one has to look at me. And I just a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm on when I'm on and I'm off when I'm off, basically.
Yeah, so you can actually enjoy it, you can take it in, you can have a good time experiencing it, but then it's nice when it
Yeah.
stops.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
oh, that's excellent. So you've got Gen Con. Are you doing any other shows this year that you're scheduled for already, or
Yeah.
is that the only
So
one you've got?
I'm trying to let's see. I might be at Star Wars Celebrations attendee this year, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's very
Going
cool.
for Lucasfilm right in their heart, trying to find some more publishing work. And we're signed up for Gen Con. We should be at Denver Fan Expo this year, depending on application status and stuff like that. And I might be forgetting one or two, but I think that might be it for our con. We're still maybe FanX Salt Lake. We do that one every year,
Mhm.
but it's on our 15-year dating anniversary this year. So we're just like, oh gosh, that's tough. 15-year
Right.
anniversary, like that's a big number. So we not sure on that one yet, but a couple other shows will be
I
there.
mean, you could argue that that's a great way to celebrate, but
Oh yeah, for
whatever
sure.
is appropriate for the 15 years.
Exactly. Like there's so much work at this point. You just, I mean, honestly, just the load in, the setup, all that stuff. Interacting with people's the fun part, but tearing down the booth at the end of the weekend, that's the dreaded part for most exhibitors, like having to pack it all back up in the car and then drive home.
Right. Because when you're unpacking, you're excited, you got energy, the con has just started. At
Yeah,
the end of
yeah.
it, you're just like, oh, just get it done. We'll close
Yeah.
it down and
We're
leave.
like, how long is our drive home? Oh my God. No. We're usually
Hope,
just so tired on our feet.
right. Hopefully that the air conditioning is still on in the convention center. They haven't turned it
Yeah,
off or something, right?
exactly. At that point, yeah.
Now, so you're going to be an attendee at Star Wars Celebrations. You actually just get to walk around and do stuff. Do you dress up at all? Do you do costuming or anything? Or
Oh, I wish. I wish I was brave enough for that. Unfortunately, I will not be in cosplay, but I will be hounding all the cosplayers, getting photos and
uh-huh.
finding as many as I can, and all that fun stuff, and just finding awesome people. Like we mentioned, Dave Filoni. I'm really hoping I run into Dave Filoni there, because that's my my dream celebrity to have like a one-on-one conversation with.
That would be fantastic. I just, we were talking in ahead of this a little bit about it, and I think that Dave Filoni is, and I'll probably bring this up in all sorts of conversations I have with people, but the idea of understanding an IP that you're working on, right?
Hmm.
I think that you have to understand it in the right way, and the people who do can just make it click. And God, the stuff he's put together, like
Oh, so
the
incredible.
Dathomir storylines and Savage and the entire Darth Maul storyline, which I kind of don't even like to talk about, because I'm like, if you haven't seen it, I want you to watch it. I don't want to tell you what happens. Just watch it, right?
Same here. I'm hesitant. Like, I almost said, oh, that moment where he fights. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
Not going to tell you. You need to see it. Like, the entire final season that they kind of revived in 2019 is just like out of this world good. I have to rewatch it at least once a year, and we're rewatching it right now, actually, which has been really fun.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I can't get enough of his stuff. I just absolutely love it. And the thing I do like as well, that I feel like he's the expert at apologizing for things that didn't make sense. He's like going, it didn't make sense, but here's an explanation that it all works out. And you're like, okay, thank you. That works perfect. I'll take that. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. His work on The Mandalorian too. Just, oh my gosh. We didn't know what to expect when that show came out. And wow, that's a whole new favorite Star Wars property for me by far. Like, I did not expect it to be that good.
I've got Baby Yoda right up here on my shelf.
I have one too. He's not, you can't see him, but it's like it's not a Sideshow Collectibles Baby Yoda, but it's a Barnes and Noble. His head is still like sculpted and nice detailed, but the body's a little squishy.
Mine is, you tap him on the head and he starts moving around and talking and stuff. So I have to be careful not to go too close. Otherwise he'll talk through the rest of this. Well, we are running short on time, unfortunately. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour.
I know, right?
One of the things that I like to do on the show, and we talked about this, and the folks who have watched before know this, is that I like to take a second to talk about someone else that we want to boost, someone who's doing really cool work and deserves a bit of a spotlight. And so you have someone that you are going to talk about, and I have a couple of pieces to show as well.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk to you about a very dear friend of mine named Tawny Fritz, who I hope you're watching so I can embarrass you. Tawny's work is out of this world. She is an ink master and hand draws all of her work with ink and gets these perfect smooth lines I can't even get with digital software that can like help you smooth stuff out. Right. And she's essentially a wizard or a witch at this point. But this piece right here this is one of my favorites of hers. This was created for the Wormwood Corrupted Collection tarot that they had, which was, I believe, last year that was released for their Kickstarter. And this piece was featured on all of Wormwood's videos. It was, I mean, like kind of the face of the project. And I think it's incredible, that color and the vibrancy and how it complements the ink lines. It's
a gorgeous piece. And I will admit that I came across this one and I just loved it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like drawn into this one. I feel like I'm pulled closer to it the longer I look at it. It's just fantastic.
I love that piece too. That's definitely one of my top favorites. I was going through her website trying to decide, okay, all right, which ones am I gonna do? I couldn't decide. Couldn't decide. There's so many good ones. And it's like her aesthetic, and I love that. It's like witchy vibes and like beautiful women with flowing hair and horns and familiars and just like this ethereal nature to everything. And I think it's fantastic.
And like a hint of Gibson Girl mixed in, right? If people know what that artistic style is, it's got that sort of in there as well. It's really pretty amazing. So definitely check out Tawny. In the meantime, Crystal, thank you so much for coming. This has been great. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see more of your work. And again, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you.
All right, folks, that's it. You've whiled away another hour listening to us talk about cool stuff. We're going to wrap things up for today. Next week, we're talking to R.R. Virdi, the author of The Grave Report and the Books of Winter Urban Fantasy series. He also wrote the Monster Slayer Online lit RPG series. And not only is he a two-time Dragon Award finalist, a Nebula Award finalist, his epic fantasy, The First Binding, is due out in August from Tor Books, which should be very cool. So join us next week. We're going to be talking to R.R. Virdi. It should be very cool. Thanks for watching, and good night to everyone. Have a good one.